Welcome for my tourism Pathshala. It will transform your dream into reality. Good morning, all of my UGC NET and June student of tourism administration and management. This is our mega question paper analysis series. This question paper is based on June 2021. And I have selected the all question based on research and statistics from June 2021 question paper. The first question number 33. This question is based on factor analysis. In factor analysis, the question is in factor analysis, the total variance explained by each factor is represented by 4 options they have given. So first of all, you have to understand what is factor analysis. The factor analysis is a statistical method used to analyze the relationship among set of observed variables by explaining the correlation or covariance between them in terms of smaller number of unobserved variables called factor. There is a relationship among the set of observed variables by explaining the correlation and covariance between them. The correct option for factor analysis, the total variance explained by each factor is represented by eigenvalue. So now the question is, what is eigenvalue? Eigenvalue are an important tool for determining how many factors to retain in an analysis. In further analysis, an eigenvalue is measures how much variance as a factor explained. So, eigenvalues is the total variance explained by each factor. It is used by the computative program in deciding the number of factors. Only factors with eigenvalue more than 1 are included in final solution. So this is the research tool. This question is based on research tool or factor analysis. One of the conceptual unit. This unit is very important for our UGC NET and June exam and for our further PhD, for the study for PhD. Our next question number 34. This question is based on types of variable, and this variable is based on experimental variables. The question is the variable on the basis of which the effectiveness of experimental variable is studied is known as criteria variable. The criteria variable is the experimental variable, the cause-effect relationship between the variables. Now, we have to understand, we have to develop our knowledge regarding the various types of experimental variables. The main focus of scientific study is to analyze the functional relationship of variables, which refers to the cause-effect relationship between the variables. This can be studied by applying the law of single variable. The types of experimental variable. Experimental variable is conducted to examine the effect of variable or treatment known as experimental variable. The program instruction strategy may be an experimental variable. Next, control variable. The effectiveness of an experimental variable is examined by comparing with other variables known as control variable. For example, the effectiveness program instruction strategy is studied by comparing with the lecture or transitional method of teaching. Our next topic, criteria variables or dependent variables. The criteria variables is the basis on which the effectiveness of the experimental variable is established or studied. The learning outcome or achievement or change of behavior are usually the criteria variable in education or psychology. Next, intervening variable. What is intervening variable? A number of abstract variable in educational experiment intervenes the effect of experimental variable on criteria. The variables such as the learner, attitude, motivation, learning process are intervening variables. So there are different types of variable under this section where we learn the experimental variables and is the different types of experimental variables. Our next question, question number 35. This question is based on characteristics of probability sample. Very interesting question. Probability sampling. The probability sampling, what is probability sampling? Probability sampling deals with the selection mode that offer every element a known probability of being included as a sample. Thus, probability sampling is the method that delivers equal and independent chance of selection to the element of population. Generally, probability sampling used in fundamental research since it deals with the generalization of the result. It is also used in applied research. Probability sampling is based on law of statistical regularity and law of inertia of large sample. So our option, the question which of the following does not characterize. Now we learn the characteristics concept and characteristics of probability sampling. The question which does not. So A, the selected sample is representative of the population is correct. The purpose to generalize the result, correct. It is based on law of inertia of large sample, correct. But non-parametric statistics are used. This is the wrong. Probability sampling used in parametric sample. Our next question, we move on to the next question, question number 36. This question is based on the important condition of research design. 4 important conditions. This is a very important question about research design. A research design which ensure agreement between the final score assigned to different individual by more than one independent observer is to fulfill the condition of the reliability, objectivity, validity, and generalization. Generalizability. The option number B, objectivity, is right. First of all, we have to understand the 4 conception. A good research design should satisfy the following 4 conditions. Number 1, objectivity. What is objectivity? Objectivity refers to finding related to the method of data collection and scoring of the responses. Objectivity of the procedure can be judged by the degree of agreement between the final score assigned to different individual by more than one independent observer. So these are the options. Ensure agreement between the final score assigned to different individuals by more than one independent observer. So this is called objectivity. Our next features is the reliability. Reliability refers to consistency throughout a series of measurements. Reliability refers to the consistency throughout a series of a measure, which means that respondent gives a particular reply to a question. He is expected to give the same answer even he is asked repeated. The consistency is the main features of the reliability. Next up is the validity. A measuring instrument is said to be valid when it measures what is expected to measure. As example, perception must measure perception only. Question must be framed to meet this objective. What is expected to measure? That is called validity. And generalization, this means that the data collected through sample This means that the data collected through sample must be suitable for drawing conclusion about the population. A research design helps an investigator to generalize his finding for population. So these are the important aspect to satisfy the important four condition of research design. Our next question is question number 59. This question is based on statement of statistics. Number 1, A. Mean of each possible sample from a population were plotted on a linear graph from a sampling distribution. This is right. Mean of each possible sample from a population when plotted on a linear graph from a sampling distribution. Second, application of sign test require that each pair of scores should be independent of all other pairs. Application of sign test requires that each pair of scores should be independent of all other pairs. So this is also the right. But see, the Kruskal-Wallis H test is score-dependent statistics. This is not right. This is the based on independent statistics. Means Z-score criteria is applicable to the skewed distribution. Z-score criteria is applicable to a normal distribution, not skewed distribution. So option C and D, option C is the right, C and D statements are wrong. The Kruskal-Wallis H test, what do you mean? Sometimes also called one-way ANOVA on rank, is a rank-based non-parametric test. The Kruskal-Wallis H test is a based on non-parametric test. It is a statistical significance differences between two or more group of an independent variables. Between two or more group of an independent variable. And Kruskal-Wallis test is a considered that non-parametric alternative to the one-way ANOVA. An extension of Mann-Whitney test to allow the comparison of more than two independent groups. So these are the features of the Kruskal-Wallis test. Kruskal-Wallis H test. So as a parametric and non-parametric statistics is very important. In next class, after few class, I will provide the important topic of statistics and reference tests that will helpful to understand to solve these kinds of questions. Just you keep touch. Our next question based on question number 60, based on principle of developing thesis, research report or thesis. Which of the following principle of research report writing are correctly matched within their explanation? Only out of A, B, C, D, out of 4 statements, only C and D are correctly matched. C, assertion. The research should enunciate the support of earlier research for fact obtained and analysis made. And next, D, openness. Error and limitation in data method and tools should be put down. Now, there are 15 principles for developing thesis. The 15 principles which will be helpful developing thesis. Number 1, consistency. There should be consistency in the objectives of the research stated in the introduction, result obtained, conclusion drawn, in the location, type and format of caption for table and figure should be consistent. In the referencing format employing the text should be consistent. Next, connectivity. The text of the thesis should not have abrupt and racked beginning and ending. The text of the thesis should not have abrupt and racked beginning and ending. Selection R to selection and chapter to chapter transition should be logical. That is the connectivity. Indentation. The thesis should be indented or cut into meaningful chapters and sections depending upon the structure, content of the various aspects of presentation. Next, continuity. The flow of thought, idea in each section should be carefully maintained. Next, ordering. When discussing objectives, variables, and result, it is necessary that different objectives, variables, result are ordered in the same way. Next, compatibility or boundedness. When discussion result are present in conclusion, it is essential that the results are confined to the data what the techniques can give. In other words, conclusion inference must be compatible with the data technique of compatible with the data and techniques of analysis and must not transgress them. Next topic, jargon. Every discipline has its own special word, mode of expression, phraseology. The student would do well to use them, what that is the jargon of the discipline. Next, elaboration. One of the most difficult things while developing a thesis is to appreciate where or what point is the thesis that should have to compare considerable amount of research material and where there is need to elaborate. Next, highlighting. It is necessary for the student to emphasize and highlight the major aspect or point that are significant in his work. Openness. Every research has limitation and error. Appreciate of this is the frankly and open approach to putting down the error and limitation in data, in method, even in the tools of used. Next, clarity. In the thesis, the student is trying to communicate and not impress or confuse the examiner. Simple language, concise and direct statement should be used. That is called the clarity. Next is assertion. Assertion without support are highly detrimental to scientific approach. Next, self-sufficiency. Whenever table, graph, figure, illustration are presented in the text, it is desirable to make this thesis as complete as possible. Next, enrichment. Usually the researcher collects wider information than it is necessary to answer the research question after the main objective of the thesis is achieved. Next, synthesis, analysis. Synthesis, analysis, synthesis. In writing the thesis, employ synthetic and analysis approach in cycle. Get an overview, outline content on the thesis, synthesis. So these are the 15 principles of developing thesis. Why we have to study this 15 principles? Because you can see our nature of question paper, they can provide any kinds of statement. If you have a thorough knowledge regarding this, you can chase these kinds of questions. Our next question, question number 61. This question is based on hypothesis testing and null hypothesis testing or type 2 error. Features of the question is which of the following is not true about the type 2 error. Type 2 error occurs when, based on the sample result, the null hypothesis is accepted when it is false. Is that right? The type 2 error is also known as beta error. It is also true. The complement of the probability of type 2 error is called the power of statistical test. This is also true. These three statements A, B, C are correct. But Choose the correct answer from the option given below. Which of the following is, now our question is, which of the following is not true about the type 2 error? Is not true. The option number D means D and E statement are not true. So D and E is the correct option. Now question is, we have to understand what is hypothesis testing, type 1 error and type. In hypothesis testing, type 1 and type 2 error are both mistakes that occur when drawing conclusion from experiment. Now question is a type 1 error, also known as the false positive. This occurs when null hypothesis is rejected when it is true. For example, study might conclude that drug is effective when it is actually not. Type 2 error, also known as false negative. This occurs when the null hypothesis is not rejected even though it is false. Null hypothesis is not rejected even though it is false, and type 1 error, false positive, occurs when the null hypothesis is rejected when it is true. Example, a study might conclude the drug is not effective when it is actually is. So that is the false negative. So these are our type 2 error. Type 1 error occurs when the sample result lead to the rejection null hypothesis when it is factual. And type 1 error is the control by establishing the tolerable level of risk of rejecting and true null hypothesis. Type 1 error and type 2 error have inverse relationship. If probability of one error is decreased, the other one will increase. So type 2 error is a control establishing the tolerable level of risk or rejecting a true null hypothesis, a wrong statement. And reduction the probability of type 2 error reduces the probability of type 1 error also. This is also the wrong statement because the inverse relationship. Without understanding hypothesis, it is very difficult to solve this question. So my dear, I request everybody, these areas, research and statistics are scoring area, but we have to give some effort to develop our funda and concept and knowledge. Then we can solve this problem easily. Our next topic, question number 74. This question is based on compare between scale and statistical test. Scale, nominal scale. Nominal scale is the related the chi-square test. Okay. Number B, ordinal scale. Ordinal scale is the related the ANOVA, analysis of variance. The rank order, analysis of variance statistical test. C, interval. Interval is related t-test where the difference between two groups is the interval scale. And ratio. Ratio is the related is a coefficient of variance. Coefficient of variance. The chi-square test, the test is primarily used to examine whether two categorical variables are independent, the test. So this is the nominal scale, that means categorical scale. So 1A equal to 4. So option number D, A4, B3, C2, D1. So D is the correct option. Our next question and final question. This question is based on states in cluster analysis. So first of all, we have to understand what is cluster analysis. It is a statistical method that group data into cluster based on how similar items are to each other. It is a common technique in exploratory data analysis. A selected variety of cluster. So cluster analysis is steps of cluster analysis are number 1 selected. Number 1 selected the validity of cluster. Next cluster procedure. Cluster procedure 2 select the cluster procedure. Next decide the number of cluster. Decide the number of clusters. Next, interpret a profile of cluster, interpret and profile cluster, and finally assess the validity of cluster. So option number C is the correct. So these are the step: identification variable cluster, step of cluster analysis, identification of variable which subject object need to be clustered, selected the distance measures of computing distance between cases, decide the cluster procedure to be formed, wider variety of clustering procedure, decide the number of clusters to be formed. Next, map and interpret the cluster using illustrative technique like perceptual map. Assess reliability, validity of obtained cluster. Next, apply the cluster analysis on the same data by using different distance measure. Apply the cluster analysis the same data by using different cluster technique. Split the same data randomly into two halves. Apply the cluster analysis separately on each part. Repeat cluster analysis on the same data several times by deleting one variable each time, and repeat cluster analysis several times using different orders each time. So these are the systematical system of step or of the all steps of the cluster analysis. So factor analysis, cluster analysis, these are the research tools. In this June 2021, they provide the question from research and statistics from this area: cluster analysis, factor analysis. So my dear student, we have to study, we have to develop the concept in this area minutely. So my dear student, you keep touch with this channel. I get the good feedback from you, and you share. And if you have any queries, you send this in my comment box. Thank you.